Thanks for coming up.
Chris, you are the second guest we've ever had on Gramercy Reading Club.
Second guest. First, Zach Linnane. Did a decent job. Didn't get a call back, unfortunately, but did a great job while I was here. So you're right now one of two people running for Guest of the Year.
Wow.
That's a 50-50 chance you win that thing.
Love those odds.
Yeah.
Play those odds all day.
We do have a fairly legit guest coming on next week, so it will be like a 33% chance for each person starting there, but
do we
yeah, man.
Who is it?
Basically he's a dog whisperer of sorts. Wrote a book about a dog.
Oh.
And like about kind of connecting with dogs.
Yeah, follow social media for the official drop. Don't want to give away too much right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, let's not focus too much on the dog, though. Let's get into this week's book. This month's book, I should say. What do we got here? We got Sugar Nation, The Hidden Truth Behind America's Deadliest Habit and the Simple Way to Beat It. I'll start off with just saying insightful.
The facts are definitely there.
The facts are there. Dry, though. A little dry.
Dry. What'd you think? Chris?
More focus on diabetes,
Yeah.
I thought, than the actual ingredient sugar.
Yeah, it's a little misleading because, you think you're going into this book about sugar. Maybe, what I would have loved? A couple chapters around
like the history and
the
stuff,
history
right?
of sugar.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for.
But, so Sugar Nation, written by a men's health and fitness longtime contributing writer. I believe he's actually the executive. The executive.
I couldn't keep track. He's going back and forth between like muscle and fitness and men's health and stuff, but he's definitely like a pretty senior contributor, if nothing else.
What's the writing version of an executive producer?
The editor-in-chief?
Editor-in-chief, yeah, exactly. Editor-in-chief at some huge magazines, and all really health-focused, 6'6", thin as a rail. One of those guys, everyone knows those guys and gals that just eat whatever they want and never get fat. And he was one of those guys, and he really went through his whole life eating whatever he wanted, and then one day he had a wake-up call when his estranged father had to get his leg removed because the father got type 2 diabetes, otherwise known as adult-onset diabetes, meaning you weren't born with the disease, but you get it due to your diet and lifestyle factors. And so this guy who was ingrained in the health and fitness world had to really tell his story of going from being this and still being a very lean guy and trying to deal with type 2 diabetes, which is something that's really hard to deal with.
Yeah, so before we go any further, can we just settle a debate? How do we feel about diabetes versus diabetes?
I have no major opinions, Chris.
Ooh.
You guys know that's like a meme, right? That old guy who's like, I have diabetes.
I've only ever really heard diabetes. Is diabetes?
I've only heard diabetes too.
You guys are telling me you don't know this meme. Marcel, do you know this meme I'm talking about? The old guy, I have diabetes.
I missed that one.
Show notes. Check the show notes for the link.
Can we get a link to the meme?
Yeah.
Wilford Brimley.
Our audio technician knows the name of the old guy in the diabetes commercials.
That's why we hire him.
Love that dedication.
Love that. That's the details. But yeah, just this one guy's journey through diabetes and his research into the disease and what causes it and ways to battle it. And I think he goes really deep into the way that I guess American culture specifically really treats the disease, which is not at all.
Yeah, throw drugs at it, right?
Which is kind of a common motif you see and look across a wide span of health issues. But he really goes at what's called the ADA, the American Diabetes Association, talks a lot of smack about them, lays down the law around a lot of the things they're doing wrong. For example, there was like 30 new board members added to the American Diabetes Association in 2016, and not one person had any expertise in exercise physiology. They were literally all just like pharmaceutical leads and stuff like that. Yeah.
And I guess like his main kind of point throughout it is what he drives home kind of like ad nauseum is like you can solve this with diet and exercise, right? And I guess a sugarless, carbless diet would be kind of the reason why it's called Sugar Nation. So just curious. Let's talk about our sugar intake, maybe before the book and after the book.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a sugar addict.
Hear that? Amen, brother.
What calls to you? So you hear people talk a lot about carbohydrates and sugar calling to them. For me, it's the cookies. It's what? I can't beat bread and butter. But what calls to you, Chris? What's your go-to trigger?
I think you hit it on the head there. The cookies yesterday. I walked by, the birthday in the office type of speed.
I guess I'll take some.
Yeah, and you walk by and you're just like, what did I do today to deserve that? And you're just running that rationale in your head and you're like, I got out of bed. I deserve one.
Right.
It's like, what did I do to not deserve? You start
Yeah.
rationalizing real quick.
God forbid you squeeze a workout in the morning and then all bets are off come 2 p.m.
Oh my God. Yeah. That 3 p.m. fiend. That's what I call it. It's just like your body's firing and you're just like getting a little lackadaisical. You just need that little pick me up to get you through the rest of the day.
Well, so you have a 6-pack.
What a transition.
No,
Cat's out of the bag.
well, you have a 6-pack.
Yeah, see show notes for that too.
Yeah. No, let's just cut to the chase. You have a 6er. Dare I say an 8er. My question is, every day, or I guess, what's your typical sugar intake? Are you abstaining from sugar every day? Are you abstaining from carbs? Can you kind of walk the people out here who are getting ready for summer 18 through sort of what you like to eat to keep that 8er on deck?
Yeah. And I think this is like an interesting topic. And I think the book and our man Jeff was steering towards that high fat, high protein type of diet. Low carb is the solution. Cut out sugar. I think there was actually a study that JAMA came out with, Journal of American Medical Association. They just came out with a 12-month study, one control, 2 groups of people. One group was fed a low-fat diet, and the other group was a low-carb diet. And after the 12 months, it was completely same results of weight loss. The deviation was like completely insignificant. And there was also like it would have to have it in front of me, but
the low carb and the low fat diets both had similar results.
Yeah, almost exactly the same.
So I'm trying. So low carb, low fat, meaning yes carb, high carb, maybe.
Correct.
Or normal
Exactly.
Carb? Okay.
So low fat would be would sit with the you're going to eat complex carbohydrates,
Yeah.
right? So
that's more like, it's like Weight Watchers versus Atkins, maybe. Like the low fat is your like more traditional sense of a diet, right? Based on the food pyramid, like just eat healthier, but carbs can still be in there. And then low carb is more like that keto thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Especially, the low carb is going to sit with the Atkins and keto world.
Paleo.
Exactly. And then the low fat is going to sit with like, hey, whole wheat, whole grain, which gets extremely blurry, right? You see like your cereal say, 100% whole grain, but then you look at it and you're actually...
I see my cheese that say 100% whole grain
exactly.
too, so.
It's not necessarily that this is the case, but when you're ingesting like sweet potato, broccoli, like both those things have carbs in it, right? And people have very successful diets on those things.
So, and I think low fat gets especially tricky too, because people, especially I think in America, are so conditioned to think fat means you get fat, right? I think there was sort of a battle between fat and sugar in the 70s, and fat really got vilified and sugar sort of won out as being more socially acceptable and more pushed on the masses in a lot of ways. So I'm personally, I guess, a little biased. I've done the paleo diet pretty strict I did for 6 months straight, and that was pretty much no carb, maybe one cheat day per week. And I really got into the grass-fed butters, the coconut oils of the world, really working those things in. And I'll tell you, I felt a little fatigued. I'll go to the gym, I would try and lift, and I just didn't feel that strong. And then I started working back in sweet potatoes, maybe doing a piece of bread once a day, and I felt a little more like juiced up, if you will. I felt more energetic.
Yeah, it's I mean, think about your entire life. You've been eating carbs, right? Like breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Here's bacon, eggs, 4 pieces of toast. Like you go to the diner,
bowl of Cheerios,
they just give you so much buttered toast, and then all of a sudden you wake up one day and you're like, all right, I'm going to try this like no carb diet. Like your body doesn't have that technology, if you will, installed to handle that shock.
That's software.
Yeah, and you need to upgrade it. And a lot of people just don't. They'll ride it out for that 2-3 weeks. They feel like crap, and then they quit and they go back to their carbs. And like, there's people like really dedicated and disciplined ketogenic dieters out there where they just fight through that 6 weeks where it's just hell.
So I'm at an interesting position on this one, kind of coincidental to reading Sugar Nation. Didn't have to do with why we picked the book, but about 8 months ago now, I think I read a book called Why We Get Fat by Gary Taubes, who is a writer. He also wrote The Case Against Sugar, which is probably like the direct competitor to this book, but similar themes throughout, goes through a lot of the same stuff. And after reading it, I decided to go more or less keto, basically carb free. So I'm like 8 months into that, and I mean, Bryan can attest, like, lost a ton of weight and feel way healthier, to be honest. So I'm like a kind of supporter of the keto. I don't go super hard with like the balancing the percentages of the fat and protein I take in, but
do you drink?
For sure. Sorry?
Do you drink alcohol?
Vodka sodas, man.
Vodka sodas.
Yeah, it's as low carb as you can get. I'm also a big fan of Truly. Would love to have Truly as a sponsor on the cast. If you guys are listening,
shout out Truly. We'll DM you.
So you're not like staying in ketosis. You're just getting as close as you can to.
So to be honest,
carb.
I don't really measure. I've definitely been in ketosis a lot of the time, just kind of by nature of it. I know some people on it who measure frequently with the strips and stuff like that. To be honest, though, I've felt good enough and I've had good enough results that I've never wanted to test with the strips because I don't want to like find something that I think is carb free. It's like I don't need to spoil it for myself. But,
out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly.
I would say Jeff is definitely a proponent. I feel like he would be a proponent of the paleo keto route, and he would be a huge. And he just, he talks about having the Gatorades. After the workout, you have the Gatorades. What you do, having the bowls of cereal in the morning. And he said once he cut that out, more than any of the drugs he was prescribed, that was more able to help him manage the diabetes than anything else.
Yeah, I think circling back, back to the original question, sugar intake. I think like. Diets aside, you can argue back and forth what works. I think whatever makes you feel good, right?
Yeah.
Like the fact of the matter, you're not like pissing purple, like because you're so deep in ketosis. Like awesome, good for you. Like, but hey, you're losing a ton of weight, you're feeling good. Low fat, low carb, whatever works. But at the end of the day, like both those diets don't prescribe sugar.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I would advocate for everyone to go, whether it's keto or super low carb, do it for a week and keep it strict. Don't do it longer. Do it longer than that if you want, but challenge yourself to do it because it's a learning curve of what has sugar in it. You don't realize all of the carbs and everything we eat. Like you go to in New York City, bodega on every corner. You walk in there and short of them having make something behind the deli counter, pretty much every single thing wrapped in plastic is loaded with carbs. Like you just pick up things. There's stuff that I like, San Pellegrino, those little flavored waters. I was like, oh, that's kind of like seltzer, right? I grabbed it, looked at the back, and there's 35 grams of sugar. You're like, holy crap, man!
Put you down. Up. Yeah, and it's so sneaky. It's such a silent killer in that aspect, and it's so ingrained in our diets. Another interesting point he makes is around how addictive sugar is, and how it compares to things like cigarettes or alcohol or other drugs. And something that makes sugar so deadly is that it's so accessible to you at such an early age. You go trick-or-treating and it's in your house. You can buy it in the grocery store, and it tastes good the first time. Like a cigarette, for example, tastes like shit. If a 13-year-old tries a cigarette, they're going to cough and it's going to taste like shit. And maybe if they power through that the first 15 times, eventually they'll start to like it. The problem with sugar is that first hit, it's amazing right off the bat. And it makes it such a more lethal substance.
Yeah, it's hidden everything now too, right? It's obvious you look at a Reese's Pieces, right? And you're like, all right, well, that's loaded with sugar. But even all the fruit we eat now is loaded. It's as much as some candy in some cases, and it's bread that way.
Gotta be careful. So, Chris, do you personally prescribe to any of those diets? Paleo, keto, no carb, no sugar. Do you have something that's worked for you? I know you've been on your fitness journey for a long time. Is there anything that comes to you specifically to work well?
So I tried the whole keto diet, but the drinking thing it's not compatible with it.
Big vodka cranberry guy.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say with you vodka soda, but in order to go full ketogenic, Like alcohol knocks you out. Like that vodka soda that you have, you're out of ketosis. And then you're fighting back into getting back into it. And then, I don't know. So it's, but I did like the way that I felt. I feel like my body is pretty efficient at burning fat and ketones. Whatever the small amount was in my bloodstream. But today, if you're asking like what my diet is, it's very like whole food. Just everything's real. I eat a ton of eggs.
Love eggs.
Love eggs. You
Love
can tune
eggs.
into my Instagram. I make frittatas on Tuesday nights. Run it live through my story.
What's the handle?
What's that?
What's the Instagram handle?
Oh, it's at Chris Howell, HOWELL 1616. So
Let 'em know.
at Chris Howell 16, give me a follow. I'm like such a loyal follower. I'll follow you right back. I may even DM you. Thanks for the follow.
Wow.
Like for like.
They'll send you his frittata recipe, everything, whatever you want.
Unrequited. You don't even have to ask. You just
My
you're getting
stories are, I feel like they just add value. That's what I try to do out there.
Honestly, even if you don't follow him, he might still follow you back.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true. You post good content. I'm looking for value out there.
That's it. What's in a frittata? That's just like eggs and is that like an omelet?
Oh, dude, it's like such a beast breakfast meal prep. And you like, if you're gonna meal prep one thing, like it's got to be breakfast.
Yeah.
Like that was like, you're spending too much money on going and get coffees every morning, getting that like, and that's when you're like really like, I'm so hungry. I'm gonna get that muffin. I'm gonna get that. Whatever it is.
Yeah, and it's easy too, right? It's
Bacon,
it's
egg,
the
and
meal where
cheese.
like you're most likely to grab something on the grill.
I usually fast in the morning.
Yeah. So
Same.
I was doing that for a while.
I do 8
And-
to 12, no food. 8 p.m. to 12
I'm
p.m.
on that flow as well.
Oh, that intermittent.
Intermittent
Intermittent
fasting,
fasting.
Yeah, that's I tried that game.
Wasn't for you.
No, I liked it. I liked the way I felt on it. Just try. I'm a man. I'm experimenting. I want to see.
I love it. I'm a man. I'm experimenting.
I was gonna say like I'm a man of experimenting,
I got you.
but then I lost my stream of thought.
That's all right.
But
No, I'm in bulking season right now. People are probably watching this like, shorty look thick. And
Yeah.
it's true because I'm at least 5'10" plus. What
you
I
should
normally am.
see him in person.
Wide.
We had to install the wide lens camera.
I walked the door sideways.
You gotta do side by side like every episode of GRC and just like watch throughout the seasons.
The inflation
The
of Shank, man.
Yeah.
Sorry, I cut you off.
No. Frittata.
Frittata.
Yeah, wait, so what's in a frittata?
So-
That's what- yeah.
So
Give us a recipe.
basically, a frittata is like a quiche, right? I make it when I'm making dinner on Tuesday night. That's how quick it is. I preheat the oven at 400, and I saute up some peppers, onions. I'll grill some steak, like little like cut up, served like little like for stew,
Yeah.
right? And then I'll put like a broccoli cauliflower mix in there, like usually like 2 to 3 vegetables, 1 meat, and then maybe like a carb, like a sweet potato or something. And then I'll crack 15 eggs.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, so
That's
this
a
is
lot
one of
of
those
eggs.
like egg bake type things, right?
Oh yeah.
It's like
buddy.
yeah, you cook it in like a
A cast iron skillet, if you will.
I will.
I
I will.
Saw that coming a
Will.
mile away. So you toss that all over top, the eggs on top of all the stuff you just sauteed, maybe a little pepper. And then you remember, first step, you preheated the oven to 400. Now
don't
we're going
forget
to
it.
slide it in there, like the DMs, put it in there, set the timer for 20. Boom, take it out. You got your breakfast. And you cut up like a pizza, like an eighth, and you have one slice. Great control of portions. That's something I struggle at.
I'm bad.
Yeah,
I eat
like, I'll
everything
make-
in front of me.
Yeah, if it's on my plate, I'm eating it.
Same.
So I cut it up into little slices of pizza, and that's what I'll have for my
And then I eat
breakfast.
4 of them.
Yeah, right.
What's your condiment?
Oh, sriracha.
Sriracha.
Yeah, big sauce guy.
Big sauce.
Did you know that? Is that what you asked me that?
No, I see myself as a sauce guy.
Yeah, I'm such a sauce
I
guy.
knew you'd be a sauce guy.
Sauces can be devastating.
High sugar.
You want to talk sugar. You want to
Ketchup.
talk.
Ketchup
That's
will
why
do
I-
dirty. But
Yeah.
tell me those salty, hot fries dipped in that cool, sweet ketchup. Come
I
on.
mean, yeah. Yeah,
Come on.
you add fries to the equation, though.
Yeah. all of a sudden, the
ketchup
sugar.
won't make it look any better.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I'm a big sauce guy. I went through a huge epiphany a few years ago when I was like, wow, sauces are pretty bad. So then I started isolating some sauces that I liked. I can't get away from the Cholula. Love Cholula.
I love it on eggs. It's a great egg.
Yeah,
sauce,
it's a great egg
Not
sauce.
spicy enough for me.
Not spicy. You like the sriracha speed?
I would say sriracha's not spicy enough either. I like a habanero based sauce.
Jeez.
Something with some kick.
You're looking for some pain.
Yeah.
Punish yourself.
I won't be crying.
Tearing.
All right. So, do you have something? Or?
I was going to read a little passage from the book.
Hit it, man.
Yeah,
read away.
I was just going to turn back to the book.
If you guys will indulge me.
Yeah.
This is something I found really interesting. Producing clinical practice guidelines costs money, and according to the ADA, the American Diabetes Association, the organization's general budget funds the development and publication of its guidelines. Quote, "We do not allow specific funding of any guideline development by any corporate entity, the ADA told me," said the author. Nonetheless, drug companies subsidize much of that general budget, so they help to underwrite the formulation of guidelines that will greatly influence doctors' attitudes towards prescribing the company's drugs. Companies whose annual support of the ADA exceeds 1 million, the highest threshold, are recognized as members of the Banting Circle elite. For 2009, 6 of the 7 members listed under the heading were large drugs firms: Eli Lilly, Merck & Co., Novo Nordisk, and a bunch of others I can't really pronounce. Basically, a huge monolithic pharmaceutical companies. I thought that was just so enlightening to know that there's this organization whose job it is to educate the American public on how to battle type 2 diabetes, a illness really onset a lot of times by diet and lifestyle. And this group is set out to educate the people, but then the folks giving money to this group are all the people who sell a very specific solution to the problem, and they have vested interest in making sure that ADA, the group that educates, is educating the American public that the way to solve the problem you have is to buy the drugs that the company back in the ADA sells. And it's just this whole conglomerate, I feel like, geared towards convincing the American public that, oh, you have a problem, don't look to diet, don't look to exercise, look to the drug whose 30-second spot runs during the Super Bowl to fix this problem you have.
It's just big money, though. I mean, that's lobbying everywhere, right? Like the FDA does that. All the big food companies are doing it. The same with like early days of like electric cars. Like who was paying for that research? Like the oil companies, so they could control what was published and what the findings were. But I see your point, man. Like when you're talking about people's health here and like and the way the author paints the picture, like maybe one of the most problematic and rampant diseases in the country, considering it leads to all these other things that we consider like systemic, right?
Fact check me on this, but I think in the beginning of the book he says obesity affects more people than hunger does.
He did say that. Yeah, at this point, which makes sense.
Like obesity is more of an issue than hunger in the world. Yeah. And I guess it's how things work. I guess in a perfect world you tear down that sort of machine. But I'm just more, it just, as a person, made me more skeptical, like some of the information I get. And if I read a study, even, talking about some studies that you mentioned, Chris, not to call it that study in particular, but if I read a study about, X, Y, and Z, I always look to see who funded it, because it could really have a big influence on the result.
Super important. Yeah. And, I think there's actually a Netflix documentary as well that kind of walks through the same thing. Somebody's trying to get on. I can't remember the name of it.
Oh, bigger, faster, it was stronger?
No, it was about Big Pharma. Oh. And it was about these
prescription thugs?
Possibly.
We'll leave it with maybe.
Possibly. But it was the same thing.
Yeah.
He was finding out and uncovering that most of the people on the boards, or they've received funding from Pfizer or other like massive drug companies that are actually pushing for they redid the food pyramid. That was funded by
it was all
back
messed
end.
up.
Yeah, it's all messed up. But yeah, I mean, I think that when you zoom out and you look at a massive organization that's putting out data like that, it's like you have to take, I mean, no pun intended, have to take with a grain of salt.
Salt's another tricky one, though.
Salt is interesting, yeah.
Salt's tricky. I think salt gets a bad rap unfairly.
Yeah.
Like if you're sprinkling Himalayan sea salt on your grass-fed steak,
love
you're not going to have any
Himalayan.
issues whatsoever.
I actually kick off every single day with a glass of water with a pinch of Himalayan sea salt.
As do I, my brother.
And
Is that a
no
thing?
joke.
some lime
Seriously.
or lemon.
Dude, Are we synced up right now?
Yeah,
Every morning I'm doing filtered water, Himalayan pink salt, organic lemon juice, apple cider vinegar, a pinch of Himalayan sea salt, and cayenne pepper.
Did you just do two?
Cassie's off camera like,
So Cassie, my girlfriend, shout out social media manager, GRC. She took a sip. What'd you think?
I literally couldn't breathe for like 10 seconds.
It sucked. Did it suck?
literally couldn't breathe, she said.
Yeah,
woke up, babe. Take a sip of this. It's delicious.
Yo, getting wrong that early in the morning. You're like, okay, like what is a nice like a nice latte and then
it
boom.
It kind of looked like fresh squeezed grapefruit juice.
She's like, we already have trust issues, and you go and do this.
You go and pull this on me. All right, so question here. It's probably going to be a long-winded question, but so you bring up this problem of the pharma companies kind of forcing this perhaps wrong solution of drugs when diet and exercise could fix it. We already talked about diet a little bit, but the real underlying cause of that also arguably is that we as humans are pretty lazy, right? And people don't like to change their diet. And he dropped a line in there. You could easier change someone's religion than their diet. And I was like, true. But so Chris, you do a lot of training, right? So what's your kind of like secrets, techniques and stuff? What's your experience with making people work out essentially? 'Cause everyone wants to conceptually, right?
Yeah, of course. But I agree. I mean, like food has such a reliance on, like, for people, like when you're sad, you eat. When you're happy, you eat. It's your birthday. What do you want to do? Let's go out to eat.
So there's so much emotion in
So
food.
much emotion.
Myself included.
Working out affects a few people like that. No, not as close to the scale as food does. So people do like emotionally get tied into like working out every day. But really, it's even working out is really just a placeholder for some type of thing that you do to kick off your day, whether it's some cayenne pepper thing. It's like, I got to go to the gym because,
It's routine.
It's my routine. You can replace that gym session with meditation. You can replace that gym session with a coffee and reading a few pages of a book or whatever. It's just a thing that's part of your routine now. Where food is just, it's much more, right? Like, and the food that you're eating affects your mood. It affects everything. And you actually you can work out with say me and Bryan went to the gym every single day for like 6 months. But Shank just did not change his diet whatsoever. He would see like maybe a water weight fluctuation. But
and then that's when you get discouraged too, right? Because he's like working out alongside of a buddy who changed their diet, and he's like, "What? I'm putting in the same hours." But
yeah, diet is like everything. You could trim back that work, that output, and he would that same scenario, it would be exponentially affected.
What's the saying? You can't outtrain a bad diet.
Yeah, you can't outrun your diet. You can't. Yeah, same stuff.
Yeah, you got to be careful. I think that, and the real magic happens. I've gone through my own fitness journey. I had to lose 20 pounds to play PAL football when I was 7. I was too thick. So, but I've just had many different like journeys through fitness, and not to say I'm a pinnacle of fitness, but just try different stuff. And like the real magic happens when you're doing the working out and you're also doing the diet. When you put those two things together.
Yeah, when you really dial it in, both of them, you like really feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
Because a diet that works needs to be sustainable, not be like, oh, it's only till Cabo. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, that's another big one is making it. I don't even like the word diet. I just think like the way I eat. That's more what I say.
Yeah, what you're eating. What are you eating right now, Shank? What are you eating actually?
Oh well, yeah, it's bulking season, so I'm pretty laissez-faire with the carbohydrates.
Nice.
Probably put away at least 10 to 12 Chips Ahoy's today.
Yo,
I'm not. Yeah.
No, I'm addicted like that. I'm addicted to sugar.
But it's at work, and people bring in the peel top back of the Chips Ahoy, and
that
they're
was
just
like the most dangerous thing.
And they're just
did.
stacks, and just one pop 30 seconds, one pop 30 seconds, dunk one in my coffee, boom, another 30 seconds
for the homies.
Yeah, exactly. This one's for the boys back home. So right now I'm pretty loose. As I mentioned, it's bulking season, so I'm trying to really get my size up and then cut it up for the winter.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry for the summer, but
Yeah, for the summer
um,
and winter.
yeah, and winter. But yeah, it's kind of where I'm at. I think this book specifically taught me just to like pay attention to sugar. Like I'm a little bit vain sometimes. Like I think I work out a lot of times just to look good. But this book taught me, like, you know, you really have to be careful, especially at our age. Like if you do the right things now, you can really mitigate some of the risk. You know, when we're 40 and 50 and this stuff starts to matter. So this helped me put a better lens onto my health, more for like the inside, you know, opposed to the outside.
Yeah. I don't want to speak out against Jeff O'Connell here. I don't want to hate on the book. We'll get to scores later. I just want to say, though, if you're hearing this, if you already were thinking, or after this conversation you're thinking about like kind of the low sugar, low carb, want to explore more, get smarter on that, you can read this book. But I think there might be better books out there. This book is just so diabetes focused.
It's a diabetes book.
Yeah.
It really should be a book called like the story of diabetes or something.
Exactly.
It's not
like sugar and diabetes. That being said, if you have diabetes or you're maybe predisposed because a lot of people in your family have it, like read it and get smart on it now, because if you think you're trending in the wrong direction, it will definitely help. But I think if you're more just looking for getting smart on the topic of no carbs, I mean, check out maybe I mentioned before that Gary Tao's book, Why We Get Fat, or The Case Against Sugar, because I think it'll keep you in it a little bit more. I definitely know way more about diabetes now than maybe even I need to know. But
I have a feeling this book was, or at least the title and the branding was the result of a really savvy PR team.
Absolutely.
Who knew that, you know, the diatribe of diabetes, like a book about diabetes, is not that sexy and is not going to sell. I think they just branded it really well. Like Sugar Nation's a super pithy title, like really, and then like the branding's beautiful. It's like really
it's
simple.
a great job.
The hidden truth behind America's deadliest habit and the simple way to be it. There's not one word about diabetes. That's like writing Game of Thrones and calling it like A Walk to Remember. Like there's just no relation whatsoever.
they are similar.
So yeah, I felt a little misled on that sense, and I also felt like the book was super long-winded for no reason. And he's a good writer. I think his writing was more exciting than I expected it to be. It actually had like some more sizzle than I expected. However, there was times when I would read through 15, 20 pages to get to a point I felt like you could have made in 2 pages.
Exactly.
And it felt almost a little self-indulgent for him to write so excessively about something that could be said in much fewer words.
Yeah, I mean, and in what it feels like is it feels like a solid article that was turned into a book, and it feels that way because that's exactly what it was.
Right. And it was an article. I think the article would have been fine.
Yeah. I mean, I read the article and I was like, yeah, and I mean, like, even all like the best parts of the article are the best parts of the book, kind of like, which I mean makes sense. You do your research and you cut it down. Even like some of the same jokes in there and stuff like that. But
overall, really insightful book, but just a little much. I think I could have gotten some of the information through other means in a much more like fast way.
Agreed.
Should we do some like final thoughts and some scores? Is that like too aggro?
I'm into it.
Yeah.
I mean, long. Yeah. Definitely showing that clip.
Might just snuck up on me.
Yeah. Do you want to go first, Chris? Do we make him go first or last?
I think first time guess, first time final thoughts.
But Chris, there's an important rule that you need to know.
Huge rule.
Yeah. Listeners, you can chime in now. You guys all know the rule.
Okay.
Basically, no even numbers.
Like round numbers. Nothing.
Like no round numbers. So like if you give the book a 5, automatically DQ'd for guest of the year.
Yeah, like if you 5.0, like walk out. Anything 0.0, just get out.
Okay. Oh man. All right. A lot of pressure. So we're just going straight scores, or
you gotta give your final
thoughts. You know,
little
a couple
recap.
final thoughts. Chris, we covered this in the prep call before we came on the podcast. No, I'm kidding. So yeah, just you want to do like some final thoughts. You know, maybe 2 to 3 sentences of what you thought about the book, and then boom, hit them with a score.
Okay.
Bang, just like that.
Love the cover.
Great cover.
It is. It's a fire cover. Yeah, I thought the same thing. I thought it was like super diabetes focused, which is like, I think the way that food and nutrition is going that way is like, yeah, it's really good to be aware of that because more and more people are developing it, type 2. And, but yeah, I thought it was a little bit more, all right, this is a personal story, rather than me being educated on how sugar really affects totally. It looks like it's just going to be a rundown of how sugar affects you as a person, every physiological thing, all that. So with that being said, my final score is going to be a 5.2.
All right.
I'm impressed. I like that.
I like
That's
that.
good. That's a good score. Spoiler alert, I'm going to be near there, but I was afraid you were going to come in like,
Way too
I'm
hot.
a guest on the podcast in 8.7.
Yeah,
I would have been upset, but that's
Yeah, people get kind of inspired to give high scores, and you just came really correct with that. I appreciate that.
good.
Yeah, I'm just trying to be honest out here.
That's all we need. I can take it next. I kind of said my piece. I think it was a little long-winded. I think the writing was a little self-indulgent for the subject matter. Could have gotten to a lot of the main points in a lot quicker way. I do feel more educated about the disease of diabetes, and I know friends who have it and family who have had it, and I just feel more well versed on the subject after having read it. I do think this whole Sugar Nation thing is a little misleading. I think there's a savvy PR person who's like, listen, Jeff, this book about diabetes isn't going to sell. We need a rebrand, and they did a good job. Overall, solid. Definitely not my favorite book we read on GRC, so I'm going to stick it with 6.3.
Ooh.
6.3.
Yeah, so I think both of them made pretty similar points to what I'm going to say. The one, so I don't want to echo that. Or I do echo that. I'm not going to repeat it. The one thing we didn't bring up, though, that I will say about it that's good is throughout it, talking to doctors, right? Doctors who have years and years of training and experience, and this is their specialty, who are kind of just letting this problem fall, and not challenging it head on, not taking it head on. We also see a couple doctors who do take it head on and are right there with him. So just question it, right? Like keep questioning things. And I think that was kind of an important thing there. Don't just like let them, not them. I'm not like anti-doctor or anything. But just because it's what they're telling you to do, there's still other things out there, right? So next time you go and, hopefully you don't get diagnosed with anything, but when you hear what the easy solution is, like ask what's the hard one or what's the better one or what's the best one for me, right? Because to that diet point before, not the same diet doesn't work for every person. Everyone's kind of a little different. So I did like that he drove that point home. But overall, I'm going to give it I'm going to hit it with a 6.2. Not because it's a bad book. It's well written. And if you want to read about diabetes, then it's probably like a 10, you know what I mean? Like on that subject matter. But yeah, it's like not a great like vacation book or anything like that. Like pick up Ready Player One if you're trying to rip through a book.
Yeah, for sure. Way different and informational, but not, not that.
Yeah. Not mad at Reddit though.
No, not at all.
Never mad.
I would do it again if I could.
Yeah.
So, Chris, you want to tell the people we have going on, man? I know you're the CEO and founder of 5 a.m. Training. I've been through the programs.
Hey.
What's the latest endeavor right now? What do you got going on?
Yeah, so 5 a.m. training, running that. A lot of good stuff there for the people at home.
What is it real quick? Give us like the overview.
Yeah, so
Elevator pitch.
Yeah, 5 a.m. training is basically your all-in-one one-stop shop. You're going to go in for a workout to the gym. You want to know how long it's going to take, what part of your body you're going to be working, and what the exercises are, and actual GIFs of showing you what the exercises are. So there's no YouTube links, no download time. You go to the gym, click it. Our slogan is "We think you train." So we take that out.
Whoa, like it.
I've done many of the programs. I've done
Yeah,
a bunch.
you're a long time fan.
They're awesome. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people get tripped up by going to the gym without a plan. And you guys just give them that plan.
Yeah, that's the goal.
All right, man. Well, listen, I really appreciate you coming out. You're the second guest we had on, and it was awesome. It's always awesome getting a new, fresh face in here, some new perspectives. So it was really, it was great. And appreciate you making some time. I know you're a busy guy. You got a lot of stuff going on, so it was really tight for you to come through. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
All right, till next time.